Hi, I'm Tom. 24 years ago, when I was a young lad and I just discovered Warhammer, my dream was to collect an Eldar Spirit host army. An entire army of mechanised space elves inhabited by ghosts who are led by psychics who can turn a person's brain to mush just sounded awesome to me. I don't know why. But unfortunately at the time I was poor and everything was made out of metal. But now, a mere 24 years later, and I have adult money, the models are in plastic, and they are even cooler, so why not? Hobbies are supposed to be fun after all. This video is the first of two parts. In this one I'll show you how I built and kitbashed 6 Wraithlords, 2 Forgeworld Wraithseers, and 30 Wraithguard. Subscribe for the second part, where I build and modify 8 Wraithknights. That's right, you heard correctly, 8 Wraithknights. Bippity boppity boop. As this is a dream project of mine, I decided to try and make each of the Wraithlords, Wraithseers and Wraithknights unique. I used dynamic poses, different stances, and really wanted to make sure the models looked real and give them character, like they were moving or ready to, which was easily achievable with some simple kit bashing and modifying. The whole army will be painted in the Iyanden colour scheme, but in a realistic, gritty and dirty Grim Dark Style. The Iyanden are all but extinct and famed for fighting off the Tyranids. I will add nods to that throughout the models with the basing. Speaking of which, they will all be based on urban rubble bases when they're finished. Okay, first step, I'll show you how I made the double blade gauntlet Wraithlord. First off, you want to get 2 of the ghost glows off of the Wraithlord kits. I found this particular conversion on Pinterest by a person called David Millett, so the blade will sit in the gauntlet slot where the power cell is. I cut here, just above the hand on the hilt, and here, just above the top of the power cell. I cut the top of the hand where it joins the hilt of the sword with a sharp knife. I then scored the cell with a sharp knife, and then when it was weakened I used clippers to break it off. I then sanded and neatened up the edges. I made sure to dry fit the parts numerous times while making the cuts, as you don't want to cut off too much too soon. So here, the front and the back of the sword need removing. Now it will fit smoothly against the arm, but the power cell extension needs to be thin so that it will fit into the gauntlet. To do this I just scratched it over and over with a sharp knife, scraping off small amounts of plastic each time until it fit into the slot. So slow and steady, don't want to take off too much. After I wasn't sure it fit, I used a bit of blue tack. I used blue tack throughout this project to test the poses before I glued them in place. As you can see here, I used a bent arm and a straight arm, and after testing it, I decided I wanted to change that. See here, I switched it out for a straight arm, and it looks a lot better. Looking badass. I also tried magnetising, did this on one of the snipers, but gave up because it was such a faff and definitely not worth the effort. With the sniper and this one, you can see that I've made small adjustments to the legs just to help with the posing. I'll show you how I did this later on, but basically you remove this cording at the back of the leg. Boopity boopity boop. I decided to make a shoulder rest for the second sniper lord. I did this by using this base decoration and by cutting it to shape. Judo chop! I then sanded it down and glued it in place. I also decided it would be cool if this guy was executing an enemy on its base. I originally posed it with a Space Marine, but I ended up changing it to a Gene Stealer later. Pop. Then onto the Wraithseers. I adjusted some legs too. To do this, I cut out the bendy cord bit in the knee pit with some clippers, and then used a knife to neaten this up. When the pit part was removed, I put some light pressure on the bend in the leg, and it snaps along the seam. I then neatened it up with a knife. Forgeworld. Again, kept dry fitting it, make sure it fits. Sanded down the parts to make them smooth, and then stuck them together. Also used these leftover resin moulds as some of the basing material. Just super glued them to the base, and then posed the Wraithseer so it was standing on the rubble. With the Ghost Spear, I cut the wrist at an angle so that it was leaning the spear down for a much cooler pose. See here, here's the original. It's cut at a slight angle. If you didn't cut it, it'd just be holding it straight up like that, which I think looks a bit odd. So to attach it, because it's resin and one side's plastic, I used a pin vise and some florist wire to pin the plastic and resin together. Drill out a little cavity in both sides. Put your florist wire in. Bit of super glue. And glue them together. I then glued the arm in place after getting it in the right pose. I then repeated the process for the second arm and hand. That's Wraithseer 1 done. Such a cool model. As for the second seer, I drilled a hole in the basic materials for some wire, and then one into the heel of the seer. Did this so that when it's glued in place, it'll look like it's hovering above the ground. For the Wraithguard, I built them by the guide. There were some modifications, like with this Wraith Blade. I modified it so one sword was facing forward and one was facing backwards. I will have 5 Wraith Blades with swords, 5 Wraith Blades with axes, 10 Wraithguard with D-size and 10 Wraith Cannons. Kept the arms, heads, weapons and cloths separate to make painting easier. And that's it for the first part. If this guide helped you at all, please comment, like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. Maybe even consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, you absolute legends. Special thanks to my latest Patreon supporter, Damon Wolf. Hail to you, champion. I also have affiliate links in the description below to all the products I use from Element Games, where you can also get 15 to 25% off Warhammer and other hobby supplies. Thank you for watching.